Hey there, Angie Gensler here with angiegensler.com. And I want to welcome you guys to Freedom Friday, where I interview successful entrepreneurs who quit their 9 to 5 job to create a business and life they love. Now, I am so excited for today's guest. I am joined by Hassan Riggs, and Hassan is the founder of Smart Alto, a text messaging platform that helps real estate agents nurture their leads, their clients, and referrals. Now, he is a pretty incredible person. He's a serial entrepreneur, a speaker, a front end hacker with a passion for digital marketing and then getting new clients from try to buy as fast as possible. Now, Hassan spent the first part of his career marketing and selling more than $100 million in products for global brands and startups. So prior to Smart Alto, he's worked for companies like Hilton and Abbott Laboratories, holding some really high-powered positions for those companies and getting great results. His bio is so impressive. So please join me in welcoming Hassan to the show.
Great. Thank you. Thank you. Glad to be here.
You're welcome. Yeah, we're pumped to have you and just to learn from you and all your wisdom and experience today. So before we get into your corporate story of how you left your job, I want to talk more about your current company. I know you are founder and CEO of a tech startup, but it's so much more than that. So can you tell us a little bit about Smart Alto and what you do?
Yeah, great. So again, thank you for having me. I'm really excited to be here and chat with you and everyone today. So again, Hassan Riggs, founder, CEO of Smart Alto. And we make a texting platform that helps real estate agents follow up with their past clients on birthdays, holidays, home purchase anniversaries. And, one of the things that I want to share about that is it's kind of like MailChimp for SMS, right? MailChimp for text messages. One of the ways you can think about it. And one of the first things I want to say is that, starting a business, specifically any tech business or any business where you need to get customers, your most important job isn't really to be like creative. It's just to be understood. And if people don't understand what the hell it is that you're doing or what you're making, like nothing else matters. And so you see that the way I describe my business is really in one clear, succinct sentence, right? And I just flat out just kind of tell people what it is that I do, what it is that the company does, what it is that we make, who it's for, and who we benefit, all in one sentence. And I believe the better you can do that, the better you're going to be able to communicate with investors, with customers, with employees you want to hire, with people who are interviewing you, regardless of what the situation is. And so that's like one thing I believe I just wanted to start off with, because that may share a little bit more about me and that's the way I think about the business.
Nice. Gosh. And that's such a good point. And you mentioned, communicating with investors. So one unique part of your story that I think a lot of people will love to hear about is you are part of a Y Combinator. So if you can tell the viewers what Y Combinator is, what it does, and how you were able, because you shared with me, I think they get over 20,000 applicants a year is what you said. I mean, it's so incredible that you were accepted. So if you can talk about what that is in the process and how you were able to communicate to them to be accepted.
Yeah, so Y Combinator is it's an accelerator that is based in San Francisco. And in the tech, so I run of course a SaaS company, a tech company, and in the tech world, accelerators are basically venture capitalists that give tech startups and founders a little bit of money and a lot of advice to try to help them be successful. And today there are over 2,500 accelerators in the world. There's hundreds of thousands of companies that have gone through these accelerators. And there are 20 or so companies now that are worth more than $1 billion.
Wow.
All of those 20 companies have gone through Y Combinator. So Dropbox, Zenefits, Instacart, Airbnb, tons of companies that people have heard of, but also a lot of companies that maybe people have not heard of, but they may use, like Mixpanel, for example, all went through Y Combinator. And so it's the McKinsey of Consulting, the Harvard Business School of Business Schools. It's the White House Fellowship of Leadership Programs. It's really good to be a part of. And how did I get in is like an entirely different story. It definitely it definitely takes some fortune, but one of the things that Y Combinator says a lot when they're speaking to founders is to be able to communicate clearly. Most of the applications they get over 20,000 applications. Most of the applications they read the application and they can't, at the end of reading that application, understand what the company does.
Oh, wow.
And so, again, the first job is just to be understood. The second job is to try to use words that create pictures in people's mind. And so you'll see, like when I talk about my company, I say we use text message to follow up with past clients on birthdays, holidays, anniversaries, right? Those are words that people can like imagine, and it helps ground you into what we do and what's the benefit for folks.
Wow. I feel like you just shared so much value in those first few minutes with you. Something that, all the entrepreneurs watching this today could take so much from. I mean, it's so important, your message, and be able to communicate clearly what you do. I know that's one thing I've struggled with the most in my business is sometimes, as an entrepreneur, you're like, I know that I have so much value to provide. If only people would understand it.
Yeah.
Do you have any tips? I know I'm kind of going rogue here with the questions, but any tips on how to create those pictures and how to create analogies? I mean, you've already mentioned a couple analogies that I think has helped the viewers really understand your business a lot better. I mean, how can someone do that and get better at communicating clearly?
So one thing is your company does a lot of great things, but your job isn't to, in one fatal swoop, talk about all the great things that your company does. Your job is to kind of define if you can first define your customer and define the problem that you're solving in a very narrow way, it allows you to more easily focus on your solution in a more narrow, pointed, and succinct way. And that allows you to communicate that more. Like, okay, so again, we met in the DM lab, and one of the things people talk about a lot, and Ryan talks about a lot in DM when you're creating lead magnets, is specificity, right? So you can be specific about the problem and the solution that you have. The easier it is to communicate that solution to people who may care about it. That helps you come up with words that create pictures in people's minds. For example, I could say, we we help real estate agents follow up with leads, but that really doesn't create a picture, right?
Yep,
so,
right.
We help real estate agents follow up with home buyers, or now people know what a home buyer is, right? So that gets the person closer to what we actually do. Home buyers, leads, past clients, they all kind of talk about the same thing, but in a different way. And each one of them will work, but some of them are better than others. And it's your job as a founder or a CEO to communicate that clearly.
Gosh, that's so much great insight. Jim is joining us. Jim says, great insights. Yes, I agree, Jim. Absolutely. Okay, so let's jump into your corporate escape story. I would love to go back in time to back when you were working a corporate job. What is it? Was there a specific incident that kind of led to you saying, I think I want to do more than be a corporate employee. I think I want to do my own thing.
So I've always been an entrepreneur. I've always been an independent thinker, a creative thinker. I credit my mom and dad for that growing up, allowing me to make decisions at a very young age, even if those decisions did not turn out the best way. that having a safe but somewhat structured environment to just kind of be me a lot with my journey and being an entrepreneur. So I've always kind of tinkered around and had different projects and things that I was working on. And so there was no like one moment where I said, crap, I'm freaking tired of my job and I want to go do something else. I actually really enjoyed the people I worked with, and I enjoyed the role that I had, and I wasn't running away from anything. That helped me a lot. One of the things I'll say, because I do get the question, how do you know when you should quit your job, or how do you know when you quit your job? And you know, that's a well-intentioned question, but it's also I would kind of think about that a little differently. So when you're starting a business, there starting your own business really gives you two different things, right? So first, it gives you more time to work on your job, to work on your business, right? So just literally like more hours in the day. The second thing that it does is it starts like burning through your savings.
Yep.
It's a very real thing. And so it's perfectly fine to use your savings to like help start your business. That's the reason you started saving anyway, right? So that's okay. But you want to use your money as productively as possible. And there are two types of time when you start your business. There's like calendar time and clock time. And here's the way I think about it. So calendar time is when there's big, long days and waiting period where nothing is really happening. You could be waiting on you to make a decision. You could be waiting on a customer introduction and then waiting to like schedule that meeting, or waiting for like the results of a marketing experiment to come back. And what progress looks like during that time is like waiting, right? Because sitting down at your computer and working one extra hour doesn't get you 1 unit closer to your end. As opposed to clock time, where that's like programming or writing documents or creating the marketing campaign. Like those things, every 1 hour gets you closer to your goal. So quitting your job actually helps you become more successful, or helps your company die more quickly, right? Whatever path is your own, it just gets you there faster. And so the thing is, most people, when they start and when they have their first idea, they're really in calendar time, where they should really be talking to customers, trying to understand their problems. They should be, reading. They should be interviewing industry experts, trying to figure out, are they really solving a problem? How big is that problem? Are people willing to pay for that problem? Who are the competitors in the market? Like all those things you can do while you still have a job. You just need to do that on your lunch break or at night. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yep. Absolutely.
Actually, like now I've started my business and I got to hit the ground running and do it as fast as humanly possible.
Yep. Yeah. When you started your first business, were you still working a corporate job when you were building it?
Oh yeah. Yep. Oh yeah. Yeah. I was still working a corporate job because most of that time was calendar time. And it did me no good to have a great idea and then quit my job immediately. You know? So yeah, I was still working at a regular 9 to 5.
Yeah, nice. Now, how okay, so I want to go to that first business, or maybe, I know you say you're a serial entrepreneur. Maybe there's a certain business that stands out. What lessons did you learn from any possible, what people would traditionally call failures along the way? Were there any big failures or, lessons that you learned from that business?
Yes. Wow. So one of the things that if I had to start over again, is I would actually talk to fewer people about my idea.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
Yeah, but not for the reasons that most people think. Because like I don't care what like someone trying to steal my idea. But the reality is you shouldn't talk to anyone about your idea. What you should be talking to people about, specifically your customers, are about how they solve the problem that you have. Talk to people about their life and facts about their life. and actual things that have happened and what they do to solve that problem as opposed to what they think about your idea or hypotheticals or fluff. Because the more you talk about your idea to people, the more invested they know you are in that idea, the more they're likely to give you compliments about that idea and bad data about whether that's a good idea or bad idea. It doesn't matter if they think it's a good idea or bad idea. Some of the best ideas in the world start as like they sound horrible when you first say it. Whoever that you should go to a stranger's house and sleep on their air mattress.
So true.
It sounds like a horrible idea. Why do that when I can go to a clean hotel and I know people are gonna like actually clean the sheets and I'm gonna have soap and like what? So it just sounds horrible. Clearly that turned into Airbnb, right? So you need to talk to fewer people about your idea and more people about their life and the problems they solve. That's like the best way to get good data and make product decisions as opposed to hypotheticals or fluff or things that they may do in the future. Like that's the one thing I would do differently with probably all of like each of my businesses. You know,
Nice. That which is just such a good point because you're right. It's like you get kind of not accurate feedback when you talk about the idea. You know, I know my husband and I, we've had experiences where we'll share an idea and we'll ask people like, hey, if we did X, Y, Z, would you be interested in it? And everyone's like, yeah, we're interested in it. And then when you launch it, it's like, nobody buys it. It's like, kind of like you said, it's like, well, everybody's just being nice. They're going to say like, yeah, that sounds great. Sure.
Yeah. You know? It's kind of a jerk. If I come up to you and I say, oh my goodness, I have this great idea. Like, let me tell you all about it. And then you say, that's like a horrible idea. Like you're kind of being right? It's a lot easier to say, wow, I love that. I wish I would have thought about that, right?
Yep.
So the best way to talk to customers or potential customers is just to ask them about their life. People love telling you about their life. People love complaining about the problems that they have. And this is one of the few times when someone actually cares to listen to the problems that you have in customer discovery and chatting with customers. So that's a really valuable lesson that I've known for a while, but I still need to do more of.
When you created Smart Alto, were you still working in a corporate job at that time? And how did you come up with that idea? I mean, I assume you knew someone who had that problem.
Well, so oftentimes the best companies are started when you go out and you solve your own problem. And I used to be an inside sales agent at a real estate brokerage. And so what that means is I was responsible for sitting down and building phone calls from people and trying to help the real estate brokerage get more business. Now, fundamentally, what Smart Alto does is replace the inside sales representative with texting application.
Okay.
So nowadays, as opposed to when I was doing it, this is before, Zillow was around and people were getting leads through Facebook and Instagram. So people would call in or we would make outbound calls. And I was responsible for picking up the phone and answering questions about a specific house or answering questions about what that person was interested in buying on the market at that time. Now we do that same thing, but we do it through text message.
Wow.
Text message is much more personal. Text messages get opened on average within 3 seconds. Text messages get responded to on average within 90 seconds. A few days ago, I called my mom and she texted me back and said, I can't talk right now. Right? So the power of text message is like, it's like very strong evidence that it's more effective than email and even phone calls. And so that's one of the reasons that I know the problem existed and we started the company to solve that problem.
That's awesome. Okay, so I know as an entrepreneur, there's oftentimes, feelings of overwhelm or fear or doubt that come in. And especially when you're trying to grow this big company, I'm sure you have the little moments where it's just like, oh, am I doing this right? Or can this work? How do you overcome those thoughts and just power through and push through?
Yeah, so great question. Oftentimes people take themselves too seriously and they take life too seriously. Overall, people are horrible. They're horrible at evaluating risk.
Mm.
And honestly, I believe the bigger risk is knowing that you and your company can solve a big problem in the world, but staying in your corporate job, right? That's likely the bigger risk because it is like baked in with more long term and more intense regret and less accomplishments. And you're less likely to fulfill your purpose in this world. And when you don't fulfill your purpose in this world, you don't become a benefit to other people. And
Love that.
the more that you become a benefit to other people, the more fulfillment you get out of life. So not starting the business is actually, in my judgment, the bigger risk. But one of the things I'll mention to answer your question more directly is just around, thinking about life in like really discrete moments and very small experiments. And the more you think about life as small experiments and tests that you can run, like this business that I've started is really just a test. It's an experiment to see, can this work? I have a hypothesis. I'm testing this hypothesis with that we can actually solve this problem. And I do that with my marketing experiments. Will this lead magnet work, or this tripwire or self-liquidating offer? Will this work? Can I get customers who try to buy in a number of steps? Life is just full of experiments. One of the most valuable company in the world right now is Amazon. And when you read more about Amazon, you'll realize that Jeff built that business based upon thousands and thousands of tiny little experiments. And that's fundamentally what your life is made up of, small experiments. When I was young, I always used to think about, people say life is short. And is that something people just say, or is that really true? Like, for example, 100 years ago, people lived, like the average lifespan was like 40 years old. Well, did people think life was short then? When it was 40 years old? Now the average lifespan is nearly double. We still are saying life is short. So if the lifespan doubled again and people were living 140 years, we still say life is short. And so I always used to think about that. And one of the things that kind of helped me kind of answer that question, that life really is short, is think about when you have kids. Like, you have a couple of kids, right? Right. Yep. So think about if your child believes in Santa Claus from the time they're 3 years old to 10 years old. That's like 8 years where you really get to play Santa. Right? 8 is not a lot of anything. If I put 8 peanuts in your hand or 8 grapes, you would say, hey, like, where's the rest of it? That's not a lot. And 8 is not a lot of time to experience really special moments with your child. So life really is short, and it's way too short to misinterpret or misanalyze the level of risk. So if anyone is on the fence about whether or not they should start that startup, start it. Now, I'm not saying go quit your job today, right? We've already kind of spoken about the way to do this in a responsible fashion. But start the startup, take the risk, run the experiment, and see what happens.
Yep. Gosh, I love that. So you're so full of insight. This is awesome. Thank you so much for sharing all of this wisdom with everyone today. One thing that I'm curious about, because I hear from so many successful entrepreneurs, they talk about a morning routine. Do you happen to have a morning routine, or is there something that you do every day to kind of keep the energy levels up?
Yeah, well, so for the past 5 to 6 years, I'll say this. when I was growing up, I'm a millennial, so I grew up with technology, right? And since '08, I've like had an iPhone and I've had email on my iPhone. And the first thing I would do when I got up is I would check email. That's like a horrible routine. I would never. That starts your day way too early. And so now what I do, the first thing I do when I get up is I pray, I meditate, I I read the Bible, and I just try to ground myself, right? I like to take time to myself. And I pray for people I care about. I pray for myself, and I pray that I have a safe and healthy day. And I do the same thing for people I care about, people I know, people I don't know, people that I come across through that day. Hopefully that, I could learn something from folks. Yesterday when I was going to get some food for my wife, I sat and I talked to like one of the attendants there for like 30 minutes, just kind of listening to his story. And he speaks like 8 different languages. And I'm having a tough time learning Spanish, right? He's working, he's making $10, $12 an hour, but he's such an eclectic person. And so I took something from that. And so the reason I'm sharing that is part of my routine is that I hope that throughout the day, I don't miss opportunities to learn. That's the only thing that I make sure I do every single day. Everything else, there's some things that I wish I did every day, like work out. I don't work out every day. I work maybe 2 to 3 times a week. I do believe, though, it's important to read every day, and I'll probably do that. I try to learn something every day, and I try to build a strong relationship with my wife every day. But other than that, most of my days are pretty scattered with the types of meetings that I have, types of things that I'm working on. One of the big things that you learn about when you start a company is that no decision gets made, at least initially, without you making it. You oftentimes get decision fatigue. And you're like, oh my goodness, I would love for someone else to just make that decision. But, you end up having to make it because it falls on your plate.
Yeah. Yeah. And then the bigger the business gets, the harder and the bigger the decisions get.
Yeah.
Yeah. So how many employees do you have right now?
So we have 8 employees right now. So we're still a relatively small company. We have 2 founders, me and one of my good friends. And then we have a product designer. We have 2 engineers.
Wow.
We have a business analyst, a project manager, 2 quality assurance folks, and an intern. So we have a relatively small team, but we build product and new features pretty quickly, and we run marketing experiments, etc. So
that's awesome. So you guys are probably pretty agile.
Yeah, you got to be at this stage.
Yeah, nice. So, you mentioned that's a small team. Probably within your industry that feels small, but I bet for the majority of the people that are going to watch this interview, that seems massive.
Yeah.
So is there any advice that you can give to someone, a small business owner, they're a solopreneur, and they just can't figure out, at what point to hire someone? Is there any advice that you have on, how do you know when to bring someone else onto the team to help you go to the next level?
Yeah, so a couple things. For a long time, the first year plus of the company, it was just me and my founder, right? So we were working on the business, and for a part of that time, we both still had jobs, and so I don't want to give the impression that I had an idea, I quit my job and went out and hired 8 people. It definitely happened like that. When you go from working on everything yourself to hiring people, your job changes. And like one of the things that I've heard Brian Chesky say, he's the founder of Airbnb, he said that, starting a company, growing a company, and hiring people, the game changes at increasingly more difficult levels. So you start off and you're like pee-wee football, and then you're playing, high school basketball, and then you're playing professional soccer, and then you're an Olympic swimmer, right? So
I like how the sport changes too.
Yeah, it's like because the game that you're playing does change, and so you're always learning.
Mm,
And having like when it was just me and my founder, I have somewhat different responsibilities than I have now when it's me and other folks. And as we continue to grow and we have 10 people and 15 people, I'm going to have different responsibilities because, running a 100-person company is much different, I would imagine, than running
mm,
a 10,
mm-hmm.
which is much different, I imagine, than just being a solopreneur. You know?
Yep. Yeah. So at what point did you and your co-founder decide, like, okay, we're ready for that next to add on an employee?
Yeah. So we have projections in our company. We think we're going to hit different milestones, and we have forward-looking graphs. And we do a lot of analysis and
Mm.
projections, and they're always wrong. Right? They're always wrong, and that's true. I don't know what size of business you're talking about. People hit their projections early, late, or don't hit them at all. And
Mm.
our company is no different. But you make decisions based upon those projections oftentimes. So the more thought you can put into it, the better. And you want to hire people before you actually need them. Because
Mm.
once you need them, especially in our business, it's almost too late.
Mm.
Because one of the most important things about our company and about running the tech startup is feature momentum and momentum and growth. You always want to be moving forward. So if you're not actually moving forward, if you're stagnating or declining, you're actually going backwards.
Mm.
And when people are going backwards, they don't feel good. And startups run on emotion. When people don't feel good, that means they don't feel like there's opportunity for growth. They don't feel like there's opportunity to learn. They don't feel like there's interesting projects, and that can kill your company. And
Mm.
so you want to grow. You want to grow as fast as you can. Growth creates problems, but it also solves problems. And so if you can hire people before you actually need them to help with that growth and build and like fly the plane while you're building it. And what about now?
There we go. Yay. Okay. I can hear you again. Good. Okay. Sorry about that.
No problem.
Okay.
So I don't know what's the last thing you heard.
I don't remember. Let me think. So you were talking about,
Did I get like did I get cut off in the middle when I was talking?
yep. Yeah. It just kind of, everything froze and everything stopped. What you were saying was really good. It was all
Well,
good information.
well, maybe we'll think about it as we continue.
Okay. So, well, you did mention something. You had talked about, you guys do the projections, you have all the data, and you're wrong a good chunk of the time. And it kind of got me thinking, like, how as an entrepreneur, often do you actually make decisions based on your gut? And then how often do you make decisions based on data?
Yeah, so I try to make decisions based upon data most of the time. That's qualitative. The best data is quantitative. I care like the, the more seasoned I become, the less I care about what people think, the more I care about what people actually do.
Hmm.
And, and that's why quantitative data is the best, and why digital marketing in general, direct response marketing is good because you can run experiments and you can get some quantitative data back.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But sometimes that stuff isn't, it's not, it's not practical or just realistic to go off and get data on everything. Like
Mm.
for example, if you're starting a gaming company, right? Like a video game company,
Mm.
how do you really know what type of game people are going to like and be intrigued with?
Mm.
That can be difficult. Like, are you going to go talk to people about the problem that you're solving with that? Or what their daily life is like playing video games? Like, that's much more difficult. So,
Yeah.
like sometimes you just make gut decisions, which is why, in general, like formal education isn't extremely helpful in running a startup because you need different skills. And just because someone has better credentials than you, or they're perceived to have better credentials than you, doesn't mean that they'll make better business decisions than you, especially with the business that you're running. So oftentimes they may know how to build a financial model better than you, but you have better product instincts, right? You know the market. You can design the product better. You have higher emotional intelligence. And so you make gut decisions based upon who you should hire. That hire turns out to be a great person, right? So you make database decisions. I make database decisions when I can, but when I can't, it's all an experiment anyway. So I'm chalking up for that.
Yep, nice. Okay, so for the people watching, if they are still in their 9-to-5 job, they're dreaming of a life of entrepreneurship, a life of freedom, from that corporate job, what advice would you give to them?
Be careful what you ask for. You really do go from having maybe one boss to many bosses. Right now, I have customer demands that I must meet, customer expectations, employees, I must meet their expectations, investors, I got to meet their expectations. My wife, I got to meet her expectations. And so, I'll be careful to run away from something, but run towards what you really believe in. So if you think that, if you really believe that you are going to make a big impact on the world and you're not just chasing money, it's perfectly fine to have money as one of your motivating factors. But if you're only chasing money, I would put some caution there. I would really think about starting a business in a responsible way. People have, this is real life. People have real responsibilities. They got, kids and a mortgage and, a husband who likes to shop and, private school and you got stuff, right?
Yep.
You got to take those things into consideration. Don't let those things stop you from being the best version of yourself you can be. You can start your business and fulfill all your dreams by doing it in a responsible way and giving people confidence in it.
Absolutely. That's outstanding advice. I love it. Okay, so before we wrap up, I want to do some quick rapid fire questions. Okay. So first one I want to know is, what is your favorite thing to do on a Saturday morning? If you and your wife just have a free morning, nothing planned, what do you guys love to do?
Go eat a bacon, egg, and cheese sandwich on a croissant from our favorite little bodega down the street.
Nice. That sounds awesome. Where do you guys live? What city?
So I spend part of the year in San Francisco, another part of the year in Washington, D.C. So that's why.
Nice. Wow. So you do lots of cross-country trips.
Yeah, it sounds a lot sexier than it is. It really sounds.
Yeah, I remember before I started traveling a lot in my corporate job, I was always like, ooh, I want to have this job where I travel. It's so luxurious and amazing. And then when I was in it, I was like, oh my gosh, this sucks.
Kind of sucks.
It's not as fancy as it seems. Okay, when you really need to churn out some serious work, you're in clock time, as you mentioned. Is there any, what type of music do you listen to, or is there some sort of something that you do to make yourself as productive as possible in that moment?
So a couple things. A, I listen to instrumentals because they're really kind of soothing and calming for me, and I work best in that type of environment. B, I try to put my phone away because, I have to make 100 decisions a day. And when I really need to get something done, there's no shortage of emails and text messages that come to my phone. And then, depending on what I'm doing, I may go work outside. I would do this even when I was in corporate. I would not sit down at my desk, but I always work from a laptop, and I would take my laptop and go sit down in a coffee shop or sit outside and get some fresh air, or just kind of, not be closed indoors.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice. Okay, is there a certain book or podcast that you recommend to your fellow entrepreneurs?
Yes. So the Mom Test by Rob
Mm.
Fitzpatrick. You should definitely go pick that up. He talks a lot about chatting with customers and what that really means, how to do that the right way. A lot of people talk about customer discovery. This is chatting with customers and figuring out how to have good conversations with potential customers is one of, if not the most valuable things someone can do when they're thinking about starting a business. So that's something I would recommend.
Awesome. I haven't heard of that one, so I'm going to have to put that on my Amazon list.
Yeah.
Nice. Okay. Let's see. What app or software program besides your own? Well, although yours might not apply to your business, but what app or software program could you not run your business without?
Run my business without. So the app I use the most is Gmail
Okay.
on my phone. Now I actually have this conversation a lot. So the my favorite app on my phone is Shazam, from a personal perspective. My
Nice.
favorite app. The most used app is Gmail, and then Trello, because Trello helps us kind of just keep track of everything that's going on in the business. And I use, give me a second. Um, oh, my burner app, because I have a burner phone.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, because when I don't want to give people my personal telephone number, I give them the burner number, and so I check that from time to time just to see who's kind of reaching out to me.
That's hilarious. I love that. Nice. You got to be protective of your time.
Well, yeah, for the first, I don't know, our first dozen, maybe even 50, 100 customers, they had my personal cell phone.
Oh, wow.
Bad idea. But just because, you know, it's hard to kind of move people towards other channels.
Mm-hmm.
For example, when people have your personal cell. So,
Yep. Gotcha. Okay. And then finally, do you have a personal quote, like success quote or mantra that you say often?
I don't. Mm-mm.
No.
I
Okay.
have a lot of different ones, but not just one
Not just one.
I like lean on the most, I would say.
Okay. Okay, awesome. Well, thank you so much for your time today. I mean, I feel like you've shared so much wisdom, so much amazing little nuggets of helpful tips and knowledge with us. So, how can the viewers of today's interview get in touch with you and learn more about you and your company?
Yeah. So again, you can always email me at Hassan at smartalto.com. That's HASSAN at smartalto.com. And one of the things I would appreciate, if you know any real estate agents, then yeah, tell them about Smart Alto. And I would love for send a referral. We always appreciate them and we'll treat them like family.
Nice. Awesome. Yeah, I know we have some real estate agents within my Facebook group and within the audience. So for all of you real estate agents out there watching this, make sure you check out Smart Alto. It's pretty incredible software to really help you grow your business. So thank you so much, Hassan. I've really enjoyed our time today. And I know your time is so valuable. So thank you for sharing your time with us.
No, thank you. I appreciate it.
Okay. Have a great day. Okay. Well, if you guys enjoyed this Freedom Friday interview, make sure that you follow my Facebook page so that you get notified when I go live to interview another successful entrepreneur and hear their story. And then I will have all the links that Hassan mentioned throughout the interview today and a replay of this interview up on my website later today. So you can access all of that at angiegensler.com. And then make sure that you head over to my website, angiegensler.com, to access more resources and trainings to help you grow your business using social media and digital marketing. And before I leave you, remember, perseverance, not perfection, is the key to creating a business and life you love. I'll see you next week.